And that provision is very, very important to attraction. But I was just speaking on a basic level of physical.
Yeah, I'd add to that. I'd say, you know, there's a difference between having, doing, and being, and that like the former is a weaker version than the latter. So like having is just like, say, buying the outfit, looking good, right? It sort of needs to be done. Doing is, you know, kind of like, and this kind of ties back to, I remember our last podcast, we talked about Red Pill, and I sort of dismissed it, but then I thought about it. I was like, actually, that's not true. Like that's very misleading the way I've put that, because it is important, but it's that doing of like doing certain things to then perceive, you know, be perceived in that attractive way. But then there's the final one, that's being. Instead of having to, you know, do these things that are like external in order to make up or compensate for what you lack, you actually become, you actually be, you know, you are that version of you. And I think that's the part that people, like, you know, you have to realize who you actually, I don't think people even know who they are, because there's that saying, fake it till you make it. But I heard this thing once that it's not fake it till you make it, it's act real until you remember. Maybe you don't even know who you are. Like maybe you don't even know that you're a killer. Maybe you don't even know that you're a leader. You just, because again, potentially your environment has never allowed you to actually, you know, feel, you know, it's like being a skinny guy, you have sick genetics, but if you never actually lift the weight, you're never going to see the potential of which you can grow. So I think for women, what's attractive is competency in all facets of life, because naturally the feminine is submissive. It wants to look up to a man. It doesn't want to be better than him. So what you're referring to in terms of looks, like even fashion, even fitness, intellect, finances, women want to look up. That's what's going to make them attracted to you. So that's what it is. And I don't think that always, you know, I think you can leverage certain traits that sort of override the need to be 6'4" and jacked. It's very hard to do. It's hard to do, like Jason Statham, like his girlfriend or whatever's taller than him, whatever. But I think that comes down to your character, and that ties into that being element of, I think even from the book Reality Transurfing, there's a bit where they said they put, in Russia, I think, they put politicians that committed crimes into the prisons as a form of punishment. But what actually ended up happening was that these politicians became the leaders of the actual prison. So it shows that, you know, it doesn't matter. Some people have a certain substance to them, a certain type of energy to them that supersedes and can bypass those sort of, you know, lower level animalistic things. But again, it's a very complicated question. But
yeah, no, you touched on a key point, and it's so funny. Like you said, last podcast, you look back on it and you're like, okay, I could have answered a few things differently and whatnot. But this is why it's so good to get out there and do these kind of things, because it makes you refine your process of thinking and really think about what you want to say and solve these problems in your own life, and obviously, hopefully help other people. So you asked me a question last time, which was, how would you describe masculinity? And the answer I gave last time was extreme ownership, which I agree with, but I think a better way of putting it is exactly how you just put it, which is, to me, masculinity is just competence. When you're competent, like you said, across the board in all facets of life, health, wealth, relationships, socially, spiritually, wisdom-wise, business-wise, you've got it ticked down. That, to me, is a sign of true masculinity, when you can solve problems, because women will come into your life and women are going to bring problems, and you need to be able to solve those problems for her, whether that's financially or safety problems or whatever it is. A sign of a true man, to me, is a man that could just solve problems and get shit done. That, to me, is ultimately what masculinity is: being able to solve problems, not being emotional, and just getting on with it and cracking on.
Yeah, no, I definitely 100% agree. I also, to tie back to what I said, I think the things I said, I definitely agree, like in terms of honor, you know, but I would say a big thing ties into, again, to competency, but taking responsibility, being willing to take on responsibility. Again, in terms of your relationship, being taking responsibility for the relationship, being the leader, you know, that I like that. There's a thing where it's like people say they're an alpha. It's like, or like they're a sigma, or like all this stuff. It's like, I'm neither of those. I'm a leader. Like that's kind of the way I like to see it. Is like, that's, again, it's like a different ball game. But no, one thing I was going to add was, you can have a look. It's just not. I think when you decide that you're no longer a victim, and you stop making excuses, and you actually take full responsibility for your life, and you're self-reliant and independent, I think that's a big thing, especially in masculinity. Again, ties into that competency, and I think that's what's so attractive. Like, you know, it's all willing. I think if you were to speak to a woman, it's like, what's more attractive, having your own business or just working a 9 to 5? Nothing against people that do 9 to 5s, but it's like, have you ever noticed when you go out, guys will lie to girls and say, "Oh, I've got a business and this." Why do they lie? You know, why are they lying? It's because they subconsciously, fundamentally understand that that's, again, it's an attractive thing. Like, oh man, or you have money. Money is attached to power. Women want, you know, physicality, broad shoulders, muscles is associated with power. It's associated with dominance. You know, that's a masculine trait. That's the trait of a leader. So I think that's what ties into it. But I also think that those things can be used. I think there's also a responsibility to, you know, with power comes responsibility. So, you know, it's not just a case of having these traits of money and success and, you know, being confident and all this stuff. That they're all attractive, but it's also like being a good person, you know, not being a tyrant, not being someone who abuses their power or uses force, can actually, you know, lead some, like, because I think a lot of people think dominance is force. It's not. Dominance is, you know, people want to be led by you. That's the key. They want you to lead them because they trust you, because they look at you and think, this guy knows the fucking way. This guy's got direction. This guy's got clarity. I'm listening to him. He's proven that he's done X, Y, and Z. He's got the proof. He doesn't need to force. He doesn't need to lie. He is the real deal. And I think that's what people are trying to make that. They're trying to get to that point without actually getting there. You know, they're trying to bypass. And that's why people focus a lot on looks. And, you know, I reckon you could take a guy like, you know, the things you said at the start, you could rip away those things and just give all those traits I just described. A woman's going to just see past it. He might even stink. She'll think, I don't care. This guy's the fucking leader. I want to be with him, you know? So that's a side point. I don't know what you think of that. But
yeah, no, I think there's an element of truth in it for sure. In terms of women